What's going down, faithful? It is our first pregame live of the year, and we got a special guest coming to you. The Pod Boy checks in. Oh, well, I'm going to tell you who we got to my right, left, that way. Right after this, we're going to break down 49ers versus Raiders. After this, but you already know what to do. Drop an SDS in the chat. Let's cook. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. What's good, gang? We got my boy JD in the building. And how we doing, JD? What are the vibes like today?
We're good. We're good. We're ready for the Raiders to win. Ready for the 49ers.
Oh,
Just,
nope.
kind of,
Nope.
just see what they got with Sam Darnold. See what they have with Sam Darnold. Meanwhile, Brian Hoyer is going to dice up some 49er number one overall defense.
Hey, Hoygod, we got Hoygod in the building. We got we got Jimmy Garoppolo. It's a room full of former 49ers quarterbacks. And I want to introduce my guy JD here, let you guys know a little bit more about JD. As you heard, he's pro Raider. So you're going to get the most unbiased feedback about the San Francisco 49ers. And of course, he wants to see his boys win. And we're not going to let that happen today. But I also just want to give you some feedback. Obviously, you guys have been rocking with me for some time. Before the SF Niners even existed, it was me and this guy doing a podcast. Was Battle, what was it? Bay Bridges podcast?
That's right. Yeah. That was the first of I think 2 or 3 different names that we came up with.
But Bay Bridges podcast, he was the Raiders side, I was the 49ers side, and so we would cover 49ers, Raiders, Bay Area football from that standpoint. So I'm like, man, we haven't done a live in a long time. What better way to bring the boy onto the channel, the original Pod Boy, to talk some 49ers versus Raiders. My guy JD in the building. And again, like I said, great football knowledge, and he's going to tell it like it is. And he has no 49ers bias. So he's going to keep it a buck with us, what he sees from the outside looking in. This is also, well, you guys hear me talk about Dynasty all the time. This guy's in just as many leagues as I am. So this guy's plugged in. He knows what's going on in the league. He knows what's going on with the 49ers. Well, how are you feeling about this game? The first preseason 49ers versus Raiders. It's not Battle of the Bay anymore, which is a little bit disgusting, but
I think that's what kind of broke our podcast too, because it was just like, well, we can't do it if they're in Las Vegas. Like, what's the point of doing this anymore? You know what I mean?
And, yeah, we're trying to rebrand, and we're like,
no, this isn't working. And like you said, right? It's unbiased, but it's also fair too, right? Like when the 49ers are the number one overall defense, that's what it's going to be, right? It's not going to be just hating to hate. It's going to be actual, respect where respect is due to. There's no bias when it comes to that, just from being a Raider fan, right? We're obviously always going to go at it. You and me are always going to go at it when it comes to that, but respect's always going to be given where it's due. So, I'm ready for football. I saw Derek Carr, the former Raider, kind of slice and dice a little bit for the Saints. A little bit of a new scene for him. I'm ready to see if Jimmy, with a subpar defense compared to the 49ers, if he can actually be the Jimmy that we know him to be. But I'm also a little bit curious to see what other wide receivers for the Raiders are going to step up. I don't think Brock's playing today, correct? He's not going to play today, right? Today. So we're going to see. So we're going to see a couple of the a little bit of a battle it out for the number 1 versus number 3. I know Kyle Shanahan said that Brock is the guy, right? KMBR. He said Brock's the guy, but we do know that Kyle also does like to do a little bit of hidden magic too. So there could always be something up his sleeve.
Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to play today? Do we know that for a fact, or?
I doubt it. I don't see why he would do that. Him just coming off of the surgery. I think we're going to see a lot of Aiden O'Connell from the Purdue Boilermakers, right? Who was not obviously not drafted high, but was thought to be kind of the mold of what McDaniels would look for, right? So I think it's going to be a little bit of showcasing what he has. We know Brian Hoyer. We know what he is. He's a journeyman. He's not going to pizzazz you. He's not going to win you games on his back. But I think there's going to be a lot of run from a lot of these younger kids today.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Aiden O'Connell is that he's been working with quarterback coach Jeff Christensen since he was like 12 years old.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
the big storyline from this offseason, and it obviously pertains to today because as we heard, Kyle Shanahan stated on KNBR that Trey Lance is going to get the start today and he's going to play the first half. The correlation is Trey Lance went to work with Jeff Christensen this summer and we saw a big change in his mechanics. Everything was more refined, more fluid, and he's looked better. So, what is your expectation? Again, you're not. We have this whole thing going on in our community. Are you a Trey fan? Are you a Brock fan? You're neither. So, what is your expectation of chance in this game against the Raiders? I would assume second string defense. I don't know if we're even going to see the starters. I don't know what the Raiders are cooking over there. What are the Raiders doing?
Yeah, I mean, like just like I was saying, right? Like the Saints, like first team offense. So Derek Carr, Michael Thomas, Patrick Mahomes went with the first team offense, right? But
Yeah.
I don't think the Raiders are going to showcase that today. I don't think it's going to be the number one offense. I think that there's going to be a fair amount of ones on the defense. And I'm excited to see. We've been seeing from camp, right? Like a lot of picks going around, right? And that's been the buzz even before the joint practices. A lot of picks going around, right? Is that lame duck passes from Jimmy, or is that genuine? Like they're actually able to pick off balls, but they're able to get a lot from the 49er number one offenses and second, third. So I'm interested to see that. I think I think your quarterback situation has probably been the most interesting that we've seen in quite some time, right? It's almost as if it was, RG3 Kirk Cousins, right? Of, high drafts and who's the one is, 1A, 1B, and it's always interchangeable. Like you drafted Trey so high. And now this past draft was the first one, like it was the last of all the picks being gone from the Trey Lance trade. Is that correct? So now you're kind of past that point of you actually have ones to go forward with, right? So the repercussions will be felt for years after that from not having any skill or position players from those picks. But now you're kind of at a like a net neutral of like, okay, now if you trade him, you can actually get something for him. You're not going to get a lot, but at least you've kind of braved the waters of all those picks being gone. Nothing you can do about it now. I think Trey. I think he has the ability. I just think somehow, some way, you would know better than I have that he's not trusted by the coaches to do what he needs to do. Right? Like that's the feeling that I get because I feel like he, they wouldn't have brought back Jimmy and had that whole debacle, a season ago. Then obviously Trey got hurt. Right. And then Jimmy stepped in, he got hurt too. And then we saw the meteoric rise of Brock Purdy. But there's just something off and I don't know what it is. I don't know if Kyle and John Lynch, if they, think, okay, did we make a bad call? I don't know. I don't know. It's really hard for me to understand that situation being so distant from it. But from a bird's eye perspective, I think they're going to give him a shot, but they're also going to give Mr. Irrelevant the number one starting spot over the number 3 overall pick. So it's hard for me to just understand how that works out. And if there's something that's not just an intangible, like a athletic skill, but something of a personality trait or work. I don't know. It's hard, but we'll only see over time. We'll see if Brock actually gets the QB1 job come week 1.
Well, I'm glad that it's not just in the 49ers fan base where we feel like there's just some disconnect. It's really hard to put your finger on it, right? Like it's just like we understand Trey Lance has dealt with injuries. Like that's been a big part of his, I think, really being able to get a stranglehold on the position because We heard about it in his rookie season against the Raiders in preseason. He broke his index finger in that particular game. And that maybe had some issues with the way he was throwing the football. Then he gets hurt against Arizona with a knee sprain. And it just kind of, it's kind of like the theme. Like, we know he needs reps, but it's also injuries that have kind of kept him out of that spot. But we do know that he has looked better. He looks improved. And it's going to be really interesting to see what he does against the Raiders. I want to know, is Trayvon Moehrig going to be out there? I really like Trayvon Moehrig coming out of the draft. TCU, he and 49ers players have been getting into it. Sounded like at the end of joint practices the other day. So I'm excited to see what that matchup looks like. What are your cornerbacks? Who are your starting cornerbacks? I mean, so much has transpired since the whole Damon Arnett situation.
Well, you see the latest thing too? The exotic dancer came out and said, because he was on his way to go to the Cowboys to go and try out there, and then the exotic dancer came out with her thing of, he stole the watch. He went on and Venmo'd, or he Zelled himself all of her cash in her bank account. Like, it's just nuts, right? And so we're definitely still seeing the misses, the glaring misses from who we both truly respect, Mike Mayock, right? We're
Draft
seeing
ad.
the misses. Yeah, we're seeing draft ad of when he had the shot to do it. We're seeing the repercussions of that. The biggest one, Marcus Peters, right? That was our even recently too. He was still just kind of lingering out there. I think that he is going to bring an identity that the Raiders have been missing. Okay, is being soft, right? They have been seen as kind of this team being led by Derek Carr, who's always, God bless you, all that stuff. It's not
memes and all that.
Yeah, it's not the mystique of the Raiders, right? Marcus Peters is a step towards that, right? I don't know how that's going to meld with kind of the we have the Patriots offshoots, right? The general manager is from the Patriots. The head coach, was with the Patriots forever. I don't know if that's going to meld, but they were always able to kind of create this this semblance of interweaving some folks who might have been, kind of offshoots, like a Marcus Peters, for just, being a dog everywhere he went and getting into trouble, of weaving them in and finding the best out of them, right? So I'm interested to see how they can handle this type of a player. I think that he's going to bring a lot of knowledge, stability, but also just be a dog out there, right? Like he's going to get a couple of PIs, he's going to get a couple of unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, but it's like sometimes that's actually what can bring the best out of the defense, right? As bad as it is to say, sometimes getting that will ignite that flame in a lot of players too. So I'm interested to see how he brings up the young DB room overall on the Raiders defense and kind of lead the way there.
Well, he's from Oakland too, so he's going to bring some of that Oakland energy back to the Raiders locker room. I want to talk about a 49er that you have some experience with, and I'll never forget your draft day reaction, because I think you were at the draft in Tennessee for this, and you got recorded your draft reaction. So that was the year that the Raiders were picking 4 overall. And number 4 overall, and we knew they were going to go edge, and it was a great edge class. That's the year we got Bosa. You had Josh Allen. You also had Brian Burns, the legend, my son.
Your son, that's right. That's right.
The 49, or not the 40, the Raiders, Mike Mayock, John Gruden select Clelin Ferrell, and I never forget your reaction. You just fell out, like, just completely surprised and shocked that they took Clelin at 4. Clelin is now a member of the San Francisco 49ers, and he's actually been having a pretty solid camp and been doing pretty well. So what do you think about, and this isn't the first time either. We took Arden Kean after you guys cut him, and we got him into a 6-sack year directly after that, and he leveraged that into getting paid. Do you think something similar is going to happen with Clelin Ferrell?
I do. I think that the structure built around the Raiders is to draft players too high, have high expectations, and not allow them the opportunity to grow into what they are. Nick Bosa isn't the best example of this because he was, the most highly touted edge rusher in the entire class. Everyone knew what he was. He's been ready for that since he was in diapers, right? But when you take someone like Cleveland, who was not even, I think he was slated to be second, third of the draft, right? That would have been kind of the sweet spot for him. But you take him number 4 overall. Did not surround him with the pieces. A lot of misses in the draft, a lot of free agent misses, and expecting that he is going to be the guy, he was not set up for success. I think him being in the 49ers' vaunted defensive line room is going to accelerate him into being the player that he was supposed to be. With some time under his belt now, with experience, he's going to be able to kind of weave that into being, again, another Arden Key. Just like you said, Arden's the perfect example of that, right? Couldn't get it together on the Raiders. He actually left and was pretty. He had some choice words about his time with the Raiders and how much he just despised them.
Dude, I had Jonathan Feliciano on the channel, who played as a starting offensive lineman for the Raiders. He had not one good thing to say about the Raiders organization. It seems to be a common theme.
I know. I like Feliciano too. That's the thing, right? I liked him because, again, he had his quarterbacks back no matter what, right? And I think he's on the Bills. Is he on the Bills now, right?
He's on our team, baby.
He came back. Okay, so he's
playing today against the Raiders. He's probably going to be the starting left guard today for the 49ers.
I always liked him because he did the one thing that you're supposed to do. He had his quarterbacks back no matter what. And so he would get in guys' faces for Derek Carr. He would knock him around if they even came close to touching him. But the Raiders just treated him like crap. They just hated him, right? Like I don't know what it was. He felt the disrespect. He did not like and appreciate how he was treated. And then he went to an organization like the Buffalo Bills where he got to protect my son, Josh Allen, right? My dynasty asset that I laud over. But I'm happy for him, right? It's just so funny to me how there are so many people that leave and rarely have a good thing to say about the Raiders, right? It's just obviously there's something wrong there. There's something wrong. There's something fishy in the water. But I definitely have an expectation that Cleveland is going to become what he was maybe not supposed to be for the draft capital spent on him, but he's going to be better than probably the price tag that the 49ers got him for. Let's just say that. And he's going to, again, earn himself into a contract just like Arden Key was.
Yeah, I was a big Cleveland guy coming out, but like I was talking about Cleveland as maybe bottom first round kind of guy, just because he didn't have that high end pass rush quality that I think has you as a top 15 pass rusher, like those traits. We knew he had the leadership intangible. That was one of his best attributes, and I think that's why the Raiders took him at 4, honestly, is because he was a culture setter, and I think that's what they really wanted him to be. But also, when you draft a guy 4, you expect double-digit sacks in your sleep, and they get out of bed and it's like, oh, I'm sacking the quarterback, and that's just not what Cleveland's game is. So I think he'll be able to find his role with the 49ers, and I think he'll play today. I would imagine he's going to get some reps. So I'm really hoping that we see Cleveland out there again. I think he has high upside. I think he has an opportunity to be able to be solid. Sounds like Sprint Ride Option podcast sent me. They're saying Jason and Andrew sent us. Shout out to 49ers legends Jason Aponte and Andrew Pasquini. We're getting rated here by some former 49ers content creators that let's go. Shout out my guy Aponte. Shout out to you guys. Fresh off the Sprint Ride Option podcast. Obviously, a lot of you guys already check in with these guys. Shout out. Hey, normally
you're getting
I
to a lot there, dude. There you go.
normally
Everyone's
I've had my subscribers go raid their lives when we're done. They flipped it on me. So shout out to the legends, Jason Aponte, Andrew Pasquini, for raiding my live. Love it.
definitely heard you talk about those guys a lot. If we're staying on the D line, what's going on with Nick Bosa?
I don't know. Like it's really a situation to me where the San Francisco 49ers, like they really like playing the long game in this contract negotiation. And the thing is Nick Bosa is going to be the highest paid defensive player in history. Like it doesn't matter like when it's all said and done and this contract is signed, that's the reality of it. And the 49ers, man, I don't know if it's Nick's representation just asking maybe far beyond what the 49ers wanted to pay or what, but there's clearly a disconnect right now between what that number's going to be. And I really do think that the 49ers just at a certain point, like, just got to get it done, man. Just got to get it
Right.
done. Like,
Right. He's deserved it
it,
though too. That's the thing. He's deserved every penny that he's asking for. Again, we don't know
it's
how
a
much it
pretty
is. But I mean,
common thing, man,
right,
dude. Like
right,
they did it
right,
with Kittle. They dragged it out. It's just it's what they do. It's not a surprise that it's happening, but at the certain point, it's like, boy, when are we gonna get this done? We got to get Nick
But
Bosa paid.
Parag always seems to make something happen though, right? Like it eventually gets done, right?
Well, like
But
use Trent Williams for example. When Trent
right,
Williams hit the open market, it literally came down to him calling Kyle and being like, "Kyle, I'm about to sign with the Chiefs unless you pay me this. Like this is what's going to happen." So Kyle has to then call Parag. Parag says, "Fine." They do it, deal's done. But like that's how they do it. Like they go
right.
all the way up to the wire. They're not they have shown in instances, like I say Dre Greenlaw was one of the rare
Mm-hmm.
instances where they get ahead of it and they get them
Mm-hmm.
on a value before they explode. And then they're able to kind of manage that cap a little bit better. But more often than not, they just wait till all the way till the end. Like they're going to wait all the way till the end with Ayuk. If Ayuk comes out here and puts up a 1,400-yard all-purpose type year, he's going to be one of the most expensive free agents next season. And that's going to be a problem again, because you got Debo paid. Now you got Fred. Like they got so many guys that are paid that it's just
Right.
going to be an issue at a certain point.
Someone's going to be on the out pretty soon. Now, I'm glad you talked about Ayuk. Is that your expectation? Is that what you see from? Because I've been seeing everything that you've been posting. A lot of people high on him, but is that your expectation? 1,400 year all-purpose yard year.
I wouldn't say it's my expectation. It's my ceiling for him.
Okay.
Because as we know, like, and the 49ers have George Kittle. They've got Debo Samuel. They've got CMC, who could be 1,000 and 1,000 kind of guy. We know he's done it before, and the 49ers use him in that way. So there's a lot of mouths to feed, right? And so, but the one thing that we did see with Brock Purdy under center was that he would give Ayuk more opportunities than Jimmy would.
Mm-hmm.
As you probably are starting to see especially with this practice that just happened where Devontae Adams got hurt. I tweeted it out. I was like, sorry guys, this is just something you're going to have to get used to. Like we had a name for those passes. We called them suicide slants because
Right.
that's what Jimmy does. He locks in to that short intermediate area of the field where there's about a 2-foot window. He's really good at getting it in that 2-foot window. But the problem is on the other side of it, you have guys like Fred Warner waiting for it to just clean up your wide receiver or tight end. And Devontae Adams got hurt in joint
Right.
practices because of it. So
Yeah. When you're dealing with
with
a defense that has a piss missile like Fred Warner is, right? Like it's I always heard you talk about that forever, and then to actually see that happen to our offense, because we don't have Josh Jacobs right now, to our offense, Devontae Adams, like I'm more than concerned about what is to come. More than concerned, right? I'm shaking about it. So I think to your point, I think there is going to be more than enough opportunity. Kyle is I fully respect him being the wizard. I know he was there for many years of, is he the right guy for this team? And then we started seeing the acceleration of, having the proper pieces around to make it happen, like a CMC, like Debo's insane rise that he had. I think Ayuk can absolutely do that, but there's a lot of mouths to feed. You have Mr. number 101 overall in nearly every fantasy football draft, Christian McCaffrey, right? There's a lot of opportunity to go around, and Debo's going to get locked up, but he's also going to be able to shift into getting his no matter what. But I think Brandon Ayuk has an opportunity to definitely earn himself into a significant contract coming up here.
Yeah, so the thing is, what we've seen with Brock is he will push and we've even seen that in training camp, even coming off the UCL, he's still pushing the ball downfield more than any of the 49ers quarterbacks so far, at least even in training camp. And that was one of the biggest changes going from Jimmy Garoppolo to Brock just last year, was Brock is more willing to push the ball downfield. I mean, even in the play he got hurt, he was going deep to Brandon Ayuk. It just was he held the ball for a second too long, and Tyler Kroft couldn't hold up against one of the best pass rushers in the league, and we know how that story goes. But he was still going deep to Brandon Ayuk. So I do think that, and we saw the chemistry between Brandon Ayuk and Brock Purdy pick right back up. I mean, there was probably, I think there's two particular throws where Brock Purdy hits Brandon Ayuk over the middle, short to intermediate, about 15, but he hits him right in stride to the point where Brandon Ayuk takes a 15-yard throw and catch and goes 50 yards for a touchdown. We saw two of those. So I do think Ayuk has the potential. I called Ayuk having a 1,400-yard season in 2021 when Kyle Shanahan put him in the doghouse. So it actually went the long way for me. But so I don't want to get ahead of myself and say I expect 1,400 yards. The ceiling is 1,400 yards. I expect 1,000 yards. I expect that to be the floor. So I expect him to be 1,000-yard receiver in the range of 8 to 10 touchdowns. But of course, he has an opportunity to go nuclear this year. So it's a possibility, but we still have some time to go. Alex said, loving the combo. And again, shout out to my pod boy, the original pod boy in the building. Good to have JD.
It's been too long. I've moved too many states to keep up with this, but it's been way too long. Way too long. So
yeah, we got a Raider fan in Tennessee now.
I know. I've been so you've been at the training camp practices, obviously, before they went over to Vegas to go and practice. So who is someone that you think nobody's talking about, but has the opportunity in Kyle's with injuries were the plague of last year for you guys, right? So there are a lot of people that stepped up. So it's either somebody who's new to the team or who ended the season last year strong with a lot of those injuries. Who do you think is going to be kind of that next person to step up and accelerate out of, because you guys do such a good job of developing and growing like a farm system, right? But you don't have to go to like a AA or, a CFL to find these guys. You have those folks that are grown naturally. Who do you feel is that kind of that next person to take that step up within the organization?
So this year it has been, I would have to say the top of the list for me, at least from absolutely exceeding my expectations in training camp, has to be second-year running back Ty Davis-Price. He was a third-round draft pick last year. It was kind of a head-scratcher because the 49ers honestly just have such a terrible track record with early running backs. I mean, Kyle drafted Joe Williams, who didn't even take a snap with the 49ers. Right. He was cut before you could even sneeze, like he was gone. They draft Trey Sermon. They trade up and get him just the year prior. He's bumped out by an undrafted free agent rookie running back in Jordan Mason. So the 49ers have had not good track record when it comes to drafting early running backs, and Ty Davis-Price did not have a good rookie season. He barely played, got beat out by an undrafted free agent, and to be honest, him coming into training camp, I had him on the roster bubble, and he absolutely put that to bed in a hurry in his first practice. And, guys come out, they have a good day. What we want to see is we want to see them stack. We want to see them continue to build on that. And he did, and all throughout. So a guy that I'm looking for today to have a really big impact and performance is Ty Davis Price. I think he's going to get a lot of run. I think it's going to be him and Jordan Mason early. Elijah Mitchell's not going to be playing. I don't think it's going to be Christian McCaffrey. So we're going to get a lot of JP Mason and a lot of TDP and even some Kalen Laybourne. But again, TDP has been a guy that's been a riser for me. I'm really interested to see what happens with the wide receivers because we had our first major injury of the year, and it was Ray McLeod breaking his wrist on like the final day of training camp practice. So I already thought the 49ers were going to keep 5 wide receivers, but now there's a spot open because Ray was going to take one of those. So the guy that I've been high on as an undrafted free agent his name's Tay Martin. I really like what he did. He had this apparently one of the catches of all of joint practices with the Raiders. I saw a picture of it. He had to go over the top of the Raiders, snatch it in front of the Raiders' face, and bring it back over. So it was a crazy catch. Tay Martin is a guy that I'm looking for. Rookie Ronnie Bell is someone that I'm looking for that could potentially make the roster. And Chris Conley. I'm sure you know who Chris Conley is.
Yep.
Who's done it in this league before. So it was already a tough competition. But because Ray's gone down, that's opening up the door for someone. And I think these preseason games are really going to separate who that guy's going to be because they've all been good in camp. It's one of those things where it's like, man, we went through training camp and all these wide receivers balled out and really showed that they are capable of being that last guy in this roster. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes, but there are some guys that could definitely stand out. Is there anyone that you've been kind of keeping your eye on that could maybe jump out to you?
I want to see Trey Tucker today. I want to know for the Raiders who is going to be their 3rd and 4th wide receiver because I'm so interested in what happened to Hunter Renfrow, right? Talks about him being traded this offseason. He was the staple in John Gruden's offense. And I think since McDaniels came over here, obviously he's been dealing with a few different injury concerns, but like Hunter Renfrow, he's the white boy. He's a white boy god, right? Like he
white boy
is everything he's everything you need him to be. And yet, for there to be conversations about him being traded, like it blew my mind, right? And we've seen how the unexpected can happen within this organization. I did not see Darren Waller getting traded. I did not see that coming at all, right? And so when these guys are kind of like on the out, so to speak, and we don't really know why, how. I guess there was something for Darren Waller about, him not even inviting, or McDaniels, accidentally told people that he was getting married and then he didn't invite him to the wedding. Just a whole bunch of stuff that just doesn't make sense. But again, that's
just Raiders
stuff. Kind of the Raiders. That's kind of the Raiders, right? That's just it's just something that you can't even understand how we get to this point, yet we have to deal with the consequences of that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing who's going to step up in the Raider wide receiver room. Obviously paid out Jacoby Myers, right, even after his debacle that he had in the Raider game versus the Patriots. Tossing the pick back, Chandler Jones takes it to the house to win the game. But I'm really interested to see who's going to step it up because the Raiders are not going to respectfully win on the back of the defense. They're going to win because their offensive scheme will allow them to be in all games and then hopefully take that next level. So Tucker, his burners are what got him out of Cincinnati and onto the Raiders roster and being drafted by them. So he is a speed demon. So I'm ready to see him today and a few others. Josh Jacobs isn't here. Who's going to be the running back? Who's going to be the guy to step it up and take all of these carries? Again, The Raider way is not letting anyone understand their thought process and it making sense to nobody, right? So the Josh Jacobs debacle is very interesting. I want to see today if we kind of have a repeat of last year where Josh Jacobs was taking snaps in the Hall of Fame game, a game where no starters typically ever play in. Josh Jacobs got run out there because they declined his fifth-year option. They said, we don't trust you. We want to see if you can do it. And what did he do? He was the number one rusher in the entire NFL last year, right? Arguably one or two. But I think
they put him ahead of CMC in the top 100. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
and respect. I'm a Josh Jacobs guy
respect
out of Alabama. He was good. But
but last year he played like he was the number one running back in the league. Christian McCaffrey has the legacy of being the true number one running back in the league, right? So I think he's taking a stance, right? He's just saying we're not going to be seen as the redheaded sourdough Sam stepchild, right? Like we're going to be paid accordingly for everything that our bodies are put through the year. It's not a battle that he's going to win. I believe we saw Saquon Barkley have that stance, and then very quickly he signed a 1-year deal, right? So I want to see him out there, but I'm also interested to see who's kind of on that bubble. We'll see it in this first game because there might be one or two surprises of players who we believe to be solidified on the roster, but then they get run out here in the first preseason game like last year and not really understand why or how. So that's what I'm looking for. Signed a couple of veteran running backs this past week. I think Friday they signed Damian Williams, right? So interested to see who they're gonna come out and play with today.
Yeah, definitely. I think on the defensive side for the San Francisco 49ers, one of the biggest battles right now, I think, is for that last cornerback spot. We have Deshaun Jameson, undrafted free agent, rookie defensive back out of Texas. He's also, I saw it from someone in the chat who's at the game. Viet says at the game right now, looks like we got 3 players taking punts: Snead, Bell, and Jameson. Jameson has an opportunity to edge out Ambry Thomas here. Ambry Thomas is a former third rounder out of Michigan. This is 3rd year, and he's just had his 3rd just awful training camp in a row. So what I'm curious to see is how Ambry Thomas and Deshaun Jameson battle it out today, because our starting cornerbacks right now are Charvarius Ward, Deommodore Lenoir, and Isaiah Oliver. I would be shocked to see any of those 3 guys on the field today. So I would expect Samuel Womack to be a starter. Samuel Womack solidified for me. He's a dog. Deshaun Jameson and Ambry Thomas being the next guys up. Darrell Luter Jr. is still hurt, our 5th-round rookie cornerback. So I'm really watching. I'm on Ambry versus Deshaun watch. I want to see which one of those guys comes out on top. And I really do think. I think someone in the chat not too long ago made a really good point about how Jameson's return ability could have an opportunity to just give that extra leg up, right, to winning out that battle, because Ambry Thomas does play special teams, but I think losing Ray McLeod as your number 1 returner and then just Deshaun Jameson, if he can prove to be that guy and could fill that role, there's 2 reasons why he could edge out Ambry Thomas. So that's a big battle I'm watching for today. And then to keep it on the defensive side, linebackers. We have some quality linebackers, JD.
Mm-hmm.
Marcelino McCray.
I wish we could even have anywhere near those. I wish. Trust me.
You guys have been looking for your middle linebacker for feels like 2 decades. Like it just never happens. You've tried. We've had some misses too. Like we took Reuben Foster. We thought he was going to be the truth, and it turned out to be
He was. Yeah, he was. Reuben was the truth. That's the problem. He was the truth. You know how much I loved Reuben. You know how much I loved him.
I did. And we all did. Like Reuben looked like we were like, oh, we got our guy. And then it was like, oh, look at Fred Warner. It's like, oh, we got 2 guys. And then we know what happened after that. But we've got some guys coming up. Marcelino McCurry-Ball, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him or not, but you
No.
might be after today. He is a second-year undrafted free agent linebacker. Dude is, I mean, he's probably the most yoked linebacker on the team, which is saying a lot because we have Fred and Dre.
Right.
And he flies around to the football. He's everywhere. So he's a guy who didn't make it last year, who I thought had a chance. I think you can't cut Marcelino. And if he comes out and has another good day, I think there's an opportunity where he really shines. The big battle I think right now is between that fifth spot. Is going to be Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, who's been a really good special teamer and spot guy for us. D. Winters, we drafted out of the 5th round from TCU, who's looked really good in training camp. Jalen Graham, we drafted in the 7th round. You got Curtis Robinson, who actually made the roster last year. So there's a lot that I really think it's, if we're starting to dial into like positional battles, we're looking who's going to be that last guy in the cornerback room, who's going to be that last guy in the linebacker room. I think those are two of the big battles that I'm definitely looking forward to today.
From an outside perspective, I see that, again, in my opinion, and even factually, number 1 ranked defense in the entire NFL on all levels. It's solidified for you guys. The one that I'm interested in, and I'm glad you mentioned it first, is the cornerback room, because I know who your entire DL is. I know who all your linebackers are. I know who your safeties are. But the cornerbacks, I think, has always been kind of that one where it's a little bit of mix and match. I obviously know Travarius Ward, so I know some of them, right? But if I were to look at it, I see that as being kind of the one weak spot in the number 1 overall rated defense, right? So that's what I'm going to be looking out for today. I'm interested to see who's going to be able to play with, again, the goated piss missile of Fred Warner, because, he just, he says, who's your best player? I'm going to go out and knock him out a little bit, right? And so Devontae Adams is, I guess, walking around with some crutches from tweet I just saw a little bit ago, right? But I'm interested to see who is going to be the cornerback to step up for you guys.
Absolutely. And again, I don't know if we're going to see the starters, but we're definitely going to see what our depth looks like. And I'm interested to see how the Raiders challenge them, whether it's Hoyer. Do you know is it Hoyer who's getting the start? I would imagine.
I'd assume it's going to be Hoyer. I'd assume it'd kind of be, maybe it's going to be a little bit of like what you're doing. We only have 3 quarterbacks on the roster right now. So we cut our 4th quarterback. So we only have 3. I don't see Jimmy being out there. So I think it's going to be kind of a combination of what's going on for Trey and for Sam, for you guys. Hoyer first half, Aiden O'Connell second half. That's how I envision it going.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So as we kind of get down, because we are now under 30 minutes until kickoff, so we are getting real close to finally having Raider and 49er football back. I mean, I don't know how it's gone for Raider fans. I know the whole Jimmy saga has been something that I've seen Raider fans kind of upset about. And, I can understand it. But, of course, for us on this side, we've had quite the quarterback dilemma here. So we are ready to kind of see what Trey's going to cook up today, what Sam's going to cook up today, because it's really a battle of quarterback too. It's a battle of who's going to win that job. And, I've talked about it all throughout all training camp. It's been pretty even. Obviously, when it's even, I'm going to lean with the younger player. That's always going to be my rationale. It's like, if you got a younger guy who's playing at par with a guy who's a couple years older or has more experience, you got to go with the younger guy, because that means there's upside there. That means there's more potential for them to develop even further than the older guy. So I definitely like that Trey's getting the start today. I think that makes sense. And again, this is a competition. So I expect their best. I know it's preseason, and I know, it's, no starters probably for the 49ers. And this is still a battle, right? This is where the guys trying to make rosters, or not even just make the roster. This is a tryout for another team potentially.
Mm-hmm.
This is an opportunity to get tape. And we know the eye in the sky never lies. So as we kind of get through this and get ready to wrap up and get prepared for the game, I'm gonna ask the chat. All right, it's preseason,
Here we go.
so take it for what it is. But give me, chat, your score predictions of today. Let me know what you think the score is going to be. I know where it's going to be weighted. It should be the 49ers just blowing out the Raiders, right? Because that's just how it typically goes. Typically,
Sure,
right?
sure.
Bay champions, right? Bay champions.
Oh,
before.
yeah.
You know.
You won one more game. Proud of you guys. Proud of you.
Bay champions, baby. So drop your guys' score predictions in the chat if you got them. But if you had to throw a score prediction, and again, hey, if you want to pick the Raiders, man, I'm for it. But what do you think the score prediction? Don't feel like you gotta bend to these 49er fans in the chat. I want you to be honest. What do you feel like it's gonna be?
I think the Niners will probably win by a score of like 10 points, right? I think that they'll, develop a little bit more. I think they'll have a little bit more consistency. I think they're probably going to win by about a touchdown and a field goal over, right? I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Just because, again, from everything that we've been seeing, the Raiders have been, making a lot of picks, right? So I think it's going to be a bit of a back and forth battle, but I do believe that the Niners are going to come out probably 10 points over the Raiders.
Oh, you hear that? Like, see, that's why I love.
I saw 21-2. There's going to be a safety in this game. I'm into it.
That's why I like my guy JD. Look behind him. He's got nothing but Raiders stuff on the wall. Dude's probably got just as phenomenal of a Raiders memorabilia.
I know. I just moved into the new house. I still got to get it all set up too. And then they got a baby on the way, so I got relegated down into a different man cave than the one I had upstairs. So
the original OG man cave got the baby room treatment, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So so I think it's going to be about 10 over the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to make some picks. I think it's going to be a little bit of a not a fluid game, probably for both teams a little bit, just because, again, Kyle is trying to see what he has in Sam Darnold. He's going to see what he has with Trey. So I think it's going to be a little bit wonky, not what we're hoping it's going to be, just a back and forth, score fest. But I think it'll be, at the end of the day, Niners 10 over the Raiders.
I think because you have that quarterback competition, I do think the 49ers are going to be a little bit more locked in. Most likely, and again, to just be perfectly honest, with the Raiders, they're already down some of their starters, so they're already going to be, pulling into the bag of the backups. And I do think that a big part of it is that we got two quarterbacks that are dueling it out, and they're going to want to go out there and play their best game. So obviously we're going to see Hoyer. We're going to see Aiden O'Connell. And we know what Hoyer is. It's probably a revenge game for Hoyer. So
a short-lived revenge game. It's Brian Hoyer. It is what it is. I think for the understanding of the playbook, Brian Hoyer is obviously going to be QB2 going into the season. I don't see Josh prioritizing Aiden over Hoyer just because he has that fundamental understanding. But again, if it is neck and neck, I would like to see an Aiden O'Connell be named QB2 because we want to see those guys who are going to push just the shoe-in veterans, right? Like, they don't just get the job because they have the experience or they have been around the Patriots way for so long, right? Which we have to say, as much as I hate it as a Raider fan, it is the Patriot way here, right? GM, head coach, everything, right? Even our owner, Tom Brady, being a part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders now.
He owns the Raiders in many different ways.
I don't want to talk about that. But I hope that there is the competition of the young guys coming through and actually proving that they're worthy of a higher spot than a veteran who's just a shoe-in, right? So that's what I'm looking for today. I hope Aiden comes in, balls out, because Brian Hoyer does not give you a level. I know, you made a prediction a long time ago of how many games Brian Hoyer was going to win you when he was once with the 49ers, and we saw how that went, right? So Brian Hoyer
I got
does not.
hoodwinked. I got bamboozled.
You got Hoyered, right? So I think there's going to be I hope a great competition between them.
Oh my god! No, we were doing the pod when the Hoy God name came about, and we were like, dude, this dude's cooking in training camp. Like, what the like? And it wasn't just me either. It was a lot of people. I remember I went to the joint practice at Levi Stadium. Hoy God's out here throwing dimes everywhere. I'm like, oh, we have a shot. Marquise Goodwin looking like the truth. Like, it was like, oh, it was screw, first year like bump or whatever. We got this. Nah, that wasn't the case. But still, nonetheless, a good time. Let's do this really quickly. I forgot. It's been a long time since I've done the pregame show that I've almost forgot. Normally we do offensive player of the game, defensive player of the game. So this one, I'm going to ask the chat, drop your offensive player of the game in the chat. Obviously 49ers related, but I do want to pass it to our guest to give his offensive player of the game for the Raiders. I'm interested to see what he thinks about that.
I'm concerned about running someone out there like a Hunter Renfrow of being an on-the-bubble guy who's going to be far and above the twos, right? So if I were to look at it, if Renfrow were to be in there, I think he's going to be the offensive player of the game because I think he's just going to dice it up and eat. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a running back who ended up being kind of the offensive player of the game for the Raiders. On the defensive side, I think if I'm looking by position group, I think the D line is going to not make a statement, but I think they're going to show a level of aptitude and ability to play alongside the San Francisco 49ers, who have a solid offensive line, right? I think if I were to make predictions for you guys, I see in the chat, I saw Trey is going to be the offensive player of the game. That's interesting. I mean, what do you think? Because like I need to see at least one game from Josh to understand who he's actually going to run out there. Is it going to be a two, or is he going to throw in some ones in there? But what do you think is going to end up for the 49ers today?
I think Trey's the easy answer, to be honest. Like, obviously, he's going to get a full half, and he's going to have an opportunity to go out there and really show what he's done. And I think that could absolutely be the outcome. But because it is the easy answer, I don't want to go that way. I want to go kind of with one of the guys that you asked me who I was looking out for that really stood out to me. I do think we're going to see a lot of Jordan Mason and TDP. I want to see what TDP does. I want to see. Yep. I think TDP is going to have an opportunity to go out here and get a lot of carries, and so is Jordan Mason. But I want to see this revamped TDP out there, and I want to see what he looks like. And I think he's going to get some opportunities late into the game. So I'm going to have TDP as my guy. I think TDP could definitely show some stuff. But I saw someone say one of the RBs. That's probably the right. Safest choice. It could be Mason. It could be TDP. It could be Laybourne. It could be any one of those guys. But I have that guy for offense. You guys drop your defensive player of the game, who you think it's going to be, in the chat. If I had to go defensive player of the game, I'm gonna go with a guy that I kind of hyped up a little bit already. I'm gonna go Marcelino McCrary-Ball. I'm gonna say he's gonna get a lot of run today, and I think Marcelino is gonna be all over the field. He's gonna be one of those guys that just jumps off the screen because he plays middle linebacker. So you're gonna see him in coverage. You're gonna see him in the run game. He's going to have an opportunity to be all over the place. I do think it's going to be Marcelino McCrary-Ball. Obviously, we're going to get to see our third-round rookie, Jair Brown, Deshaun Jameson. We're going to see some other guys. We're going to see what Taco Charlton's looking like out here, who's been pretty decent in training camp.
What a name. I haven't heard that name in a little while. Hey,
he came off the plane and it was just whooping our O-line with counter inside spin moves. And I'm like, well, he can win every rep with that. So we'll see what he can do. So Javon Kinlaw is going to be a guy to pay attention to. I think is going to be a big surprise for a lot of people. So looking forward to seeing what that looks like.
What's your end of season prediction? What's your way too early? This is where the San Francisco 49ers are going to end up at the end of the year, right? Like, I'll tell you, you're in contention for the NFC Championship game every single year. But do you think there is going to be regression for the upcoming year, or do you still think that you're in the window of riding the Brock Purdy magic to be able to make it all the way through to, at a minimum, the NFC Championship game? Or do you feel like there's going to be some regression for the upcoming year?
My expectation is that, like, I think that's the bar that we're setting, but I'm also prepared for some regression. I'm prepared for maybe a slow start. 49ers have been known for slow starts, especially on offense. I think the defense is going to pick right back up. I'm
Yep.
really not too concerned about the defense. Special teams is going to be better with the direct correlation to more defensive depth that we have. So because of that, we're going to have better players on special teams. And with the offense, having 4 of the 5 offensive linemen return, I think that's going to help the run game, which was, still struggled. I know
Yep.
CMC made it seem like it was better than it really was, but the O-line did struggle a little bit in the run game, and I think there's room for improvement there. So I think those guys are going to get better. And we know what the weapons are. And what I've seen from Brock is that he can still do it. So what Brock proved to me in training camp is that although he's not all the way back, I think he will be back. So I still have the expectation that it's NFC Championship, Super Bowl, or bust. But you know how it goes. Like, not everything is a linear path. Like, there's going to be peaks, there's going to be valleys. But I do think this team has what it takes to withstand any valley that it stands in their way and overcome it. And it's just honestly what they've done. Whether it's been a 3-5 start, 3-4 start in other years, and ending up in the NFC Championship game, it's just how it goes. So I have enough confidence in the coaching staff, in the players on this team, and the depth that they have that it should be NFC Championship game or bust. What about you? Same question. What are your expectations this year?
I don't think they're I think they have too many solid offensive pieces to not be the number 1 overall pick, like some people were saying, right? Like, I think that they're going to kind of live in perpetuity for some time until they start hitting on these draft picks, right? Like, we haven't even seen Tyree Wilson, their pick that they made in the first round this year, out of practice. It was expected and understood that he wouldn't be out there, but still, I think they're going to kind of live in this, anywhere from, 3rd overall pick to, 10th overall pick of being somewhat solid, but not solid enough to be in the true playoff contention. But I don't think that they're going to be the bottom of the barrel, but they're going to kind of, teeter around that area, unfortunately, right? It's going to take, a quarterback that is going to elevate the players around him. I think Jimmy is a good step in that direction, from at least like a confidence feeling of consistency, calm, having the track record of showing that, obviously, with the 49ers. But from playmaking ability, I see him as a step back from Derek Carr, but I think it's a step in the right direction, right? Because everyone's just like, outside looking in, right? Everyone trashed Derek Carr. Everyone trashed it. Raider fans knew that, right? But he is also just good enough. It's hard to justify just outright cutting him. And so it's like, what do you do, right? Is he going to make everyone around him better? No. Is he going to suddenly flip that switch and be that guy for this team? No. So what do? You got to move on, right? Do people get, hurt feelings over it? Absolutely. But guess what? If you're in a division with the players that we have and the quarterbacks that we have, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, whatever, he's better, right? But you will not be able to win your division with a Derek Carr. I don't think in this division, with this defense, it's not the 49ers. I don't think Jimmy is also going to be able to do that. He's not going to beat out Patrick Mahomes in the division. The Chargers are always somehow just a mess, right? So I think they're just going to be able to sit there in kind of that way that they have been for the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what the Raiders do. You never know. Jimmy has this weird way of somehow galvanizing locker rooms.
Yep.
Even though his play might not be that great, these locker rooms love this guy.
Yep.
He's a great. He has. I talk about it all the time. Like, people spend so much time focusing on quarterback measurables and the physical tools, and it's like out of any position, or probably you could say in sports, the intangible side matters and is weighted so much more for quarterbacks, because you got to manage the whole team. You are the leader of the whole team. Everyone looks at you. Everyone checks your energy. Everyone's feeding off you. Like, that's just how it is, man. Like, you got to be locked in. You got to be confident. You got to be able to bounce back. You got to be able to stand in the face of adversity. And people look at you and you set the tone. So that's why intangibles matter so much for the quarterback. It's just so much different than any other position. Obviously, intangibles matter for other positions, but I don't think it's really debatable for the quarterback. So we'll see. The Raiders could shock some people, but hey, man, it might not be this year. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But shout out to everyone who tapped in. We're 10 minutes away. Hopefully you enjoyed my Pod Boys first appearance on the channel. Shout out to JD for joining us, especially on quick notice too. He turned and got ready for this pregame live. Definitely won't be the last time we have him on the channel. JD, thank you so much for joining and all that good stuff. I know you're just as hyped about watching this game as I am. So we're going to get it. Any final words to the faithful for your premiere on the SF Niners channel?
I appreciate being here, brother. Thank you very much. It's always fun to talk trash with 49er fans. There's respect both ways going around. Unfortunately, the Niners have just had the Raiders number for too many years. That's going to change, though. That's going to change. You just wait. I appreciate you having me on here, brother. Thank you.
Of course, man. Thank you, guys. We're going to do I'm going to do a live reaction show, of course, when the game is over. We're going to talk about everything that went on, discuss it all. You already know, put the post notifications on, all that good stuff. I'll be on after, but shout out to all you guys. Shout out to JD for joining me, and let's go watch some 49ers versus Raiders.
The Raiders.
Go. All right, we're out of
here. Appreciate it, brother. Thank
you. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it.